Welcome wherever you are watching from around the world to this live feed direct from the Sepang International Circuit here in Kuala Lumpur for what is a very, very special event indeed, and that is the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017 season. This is the second season it's been on, and it made such a stir last season that it's good to see it back on the grid. Here at Sepang. The weather is absolutely fantastic, just about 85 kilometers outside of Kuala Lumpur now. The Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup, those two words in the middle of it are what it's all about, Le Mans. That is one of the most iconic terms in motorsport, and they have been spreading around the world, and this Sprint Cup especially has essentially put itself right at the start of the ladder of motorsport that Asian Le Mans and the Automobile Club de l'Ouest, which is the organization that organizes all of this, has set up for Asian drivers, bringing them into the cup. There are three classes of car. There are three classes riding within this race. Of course, the LMP3, the brand new Le Mans prototypes, they're up at the front. Car 27, the Infinity Race engineering car of Jamie Winslow. He was the one that won. He's the defending champion this year. Won last year's championship. The Win Motorsport, David Rizzo and William Locke out of Hong Kong. There's the Japanese team, TKS as well, Shinyo Sanyo on the second grid. We'll show you that grid in just a second, but as you can see, the cars are readying themselves on the grid. The track temperature, as I've just been told, 52.5 degrees centigrade. That's how hot it gets up here in Sepang. I can tell you now, it has been a wonderful day of weather at Sepang. Lots of other events, which I'll tell you about in just a second, are coming up. Right, so if you look at the starting grid, Jamie Winslow from Infinity Racing and David Rizzo from Win Motorsport, they take up row 1. Kantasak Kusuri from the Singer Plan B Motorsport, the GT car, shares row 2 with Shinyo Sanyo in the TKS LMP3. Behind them, Team New Zealand, who announced that they are getting involved with the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup this year. Graham Dowsett is sitting alongside the CN car of Eurasia Motorsport, Dominic Ang. Behind them, Wong Kian Kwang from Pas Macau Racing, Team AA1 Chi Huang, and at row 5, Arrows Racing, Max Emanol and Terry Fang. So those are the 10 cars that are going to be taking part. 3 of them, as I said, LMP3, which are the prototype cars. Essentially, this is a prototype racing championship, which is what's so special about it, because and looking at some of these cars, that's one of the BMW Z4s that's in the GT category. And what is the difference between all these cars? Well, I can tell you now, they're generally outputting about 400 to 500 horsepower, which is more than enough to get around in this Sprint Cup series. But really, once we get away from the cars and you get to the championship itself, why is the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup so important? Because it is a lead-in to its almost big brother series, which is the Asian Le Mans series itself and the European Le Mans series. Le Mans is such, as I said, an iconic motorsport brand that it has these very many series around the world, and this provides a path through them for young drivers, for some drivers. I can tell you now that one of the drivers on this from the Win Motorsport team actually used to drive motorcycles a few years ago, and is now, William Locke, his aim is to be part of the Asian Le Mans 24-hour race, which is, of course, the big race. Now, the winners of the classes at the end of this 3-event championship, all happening at Sepang, of course. I can tell you now, the second round will be on the 21st, 23rd of July, and the third will be on the 18th to 20th of August. The winners of those classes will get free entry into the 2017 Asian Le Mans Series, and that, of course, can get them into the 2018, possibly into the 2018 24-hour race itself. Really interesting cars. As we get to the 2-minute board now, you can see the grid clearing up, and there those LMP3, those Le Mans prototype cars up at the front. The LMP3 car, a little bit different from the LMP2 car, a little bit shorter, but has that V8 engine with about 400, I said 400 to 500 horsepower. And here's the stat that you really want to know. How much these cars cost? Well, each of those LMP3 cars cost round about 195,000 euros. That's the amount of motorsport technology and engineering that you have sitting there. And of course, the cars are just getting ready now. LMP3, you see with that distinctive shark fin at the back as well. A bit shorter in terms of wheelbase in the LMP2, which is the more known car. But GT cars, as you can see there, also added this year as well, just to add that little bit of extra spice around one of the most spectacular tracks in Asia. Herman Tilke designed 5.543 kilometer track. The Sepang International Circuit has seen every big winner from pretty much every class of bike and car race on it, and that's what makes it such a versatile track. So we're a few minutes away now, a couple of minutes away from the start. Once again, going through that start line, a lot of people are going to be keeping their eye on that number 27 car. Jamie Winslow in the Infinity Racing Engineering car, 2.03837, but second on the grid because of a lightning, blistering lap from David Rizzo in the Win Motorsport car, 2.01433. That's how quickly they've been going around this this track. You see, just actually, you don't usually see racing cars with doors, so it's interesting to see that as the 1-minute board comes up, a new way of keeping the inside of the car cool, as we all do at home. Just flap the door. Frenetic in the pits, as you'd imagine. People getting ready for this, the first race of the three that are going to be happening. So every piece of asphalt, every part of asphalt on this track is going to be important, and every turn and every single movement by all of these drivers is going to be important in picking up points. When it comes down to points, of course, 25 points for the winner, and 20 for second, 16 for third, 13 for fourth. And look at all the different cooling methods that are being used right now. Well, the pace car is off. There'll be one formation lap. These sighting laps are often seen if they, just to make sure they get it right, but we will find out. The pace car sitting behind. And listen to the sound of those cars. That is pure motorsport engineering you're hearing. As usual, just weaving serpentine just to get more activity out of those tires. There's number 27, Jamie Winslow, defending champion. It was all very good news when over the last few months there have been a lot of news releases and press releases about this Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017. And I said it has been promoted as well, very well by the ACO. And good-looking cars, great-looking track, some interesting results as well. So these formation lap, or maybe laps, will be followed by a rolling start, and then 1 hour of racing plus a leader lap. Only a few tracks in the world can really boast the versatility of surface. This Sepang track itself, of course, was revamped last year. I was lucky enough in my journalistic duties to have talked to the CEO of Sepang International Circuit, Razan Rizali, about the changes that were made to the 15 turns, not just in terms of their actual angle and of attack, but also camber, also resurfacing, and lots of drainage as well, because of course Sepang is usually known as the rain GP, especially in F1 circles. It's known as the rain GP. I was here last weekend for the Superbike Championship, and we were sprung on one of the surprise Sepang rain showers. It can literally drop on 1 or 2 corners just in a flash, and of course race officials and race control immediately have a very heavy problem on their hands as to what to do when that part of the track is wet. But these kind of conditions can happen at Sepang. Thankfully, it's looking like it's going to be a blistering day of racing here in Malaysia. The sun is out and these cars are looking just ready. There is Wong Kian Kwan in the Pas Macau Racing GT. The GT cars a little bit heavier, about 1,200 kilograms, but the power to weight ratio, of course, based on their engines, means they are still competitive. It's about 800 kilograms for the LMP3 prototypes, but look how beautiful they are. That's the pit lane engineers all ready. Now they're coming up the back straight here. That was the Sunway. Well, here we go. As the lights go green. Oh, very interesting start from Jamie Winslow. Immediately takes the lead. Pace cars are all off. It's all on. Bit of smoke off there. That looked like David Rizzo's car, but that might have just been kicking up some tyre dirt. And we always knew that this was going to be the kind of battle that we'd be expecting up at the front. Black car, the Black Infinity racing car of Jamie Winslow. And there's that #1 Win Motorsport car from David Rizzo. They're beginning to pull away now. Using every inch of the track. Now it's so important for them to pick their lines just right. Now these LMP3 cars, of course, are downforce heavy. They're meant to grip corners. They can find different driving lines, and with so much power behind them as well, it's an entirely different experience for them as opposed to some of these GT cars. That was a good start, though, from Max Ebenol in the Arrows racing car. He was in row 5 of the grid, and he looks like he's pushed himself up into 5th. Oh, great move from David Rizzo, trying to come in on the outside, and he just gets pushed out by Jamie Winslow. Trying it again. It's flat out on the straight. 927 meters is the longest straight that you get at the Sepang International Circuit, and he's done it. He's done it on the inside. Can James Winslow say anything about it? No, he's pulled out beautifully from there, and he's actually found himself some daylight. So that Win Motorsport car, newly established team Win Motorsport out of Hong Kong, looking good, but under attack again from Jamie Winslow, who's going to be a bit frustrated at the way that he lost first position. I'll tell you now that it's David Rizzo that is just going through the sectors fastest. James Winslow did complete sector 2 in 56.197, which is really impressive. And we're seeing a lot from the TKS, from Shinyo Sanyo, the TKS team as well. They're now in 3rd. So as we get up to the second, third lap of the race, we are currently standing at David Rizzo in front. There he is in that orange and blue car. James Winslow just behind him. Shinyo Sanyo in 3rd, Kantasak Kusuri in 3rd, Max Ebenol, as I said, from the Arrows Racing in the GT in 5th, Graham Dowsett from Team New Zealand in 6th, Chi Huang, Wong Kian Kwan and Terry Fang. And the CNU Eurasian Motorsport car looks like it didn't start. No, yes, it was a non-starter. So 9 cars out on track right now, and all the eyes are focused up at the front. But let's have a word for Kantasak Kusiri here in the Singer Plan B Motorsport. qualified with a 2:04.973. And he's up into 4th now. He's the one that is following those LMP3 Le Mans prototype cars. As I said, 3 rounds of this championship on the way. As we look at the lead that David Rizzo is setting up now. .726 seconds ahead already. James Winslow just being outfoxed on every corner so far. As they get into the fast part of the track. These are the Genting curves and the KLI curves. Section 2 is very fast indeed. I can tell you now, David Rizzo, well, he doesn't care about sections at the moment because he's just gone fastest on all 3 of them. 54.3 in sector 1, 36.3 in sector 2, and 33.4 in sector 3. Unbelievable stuff from him, and that's why he's pulling away nicely from the Infinity Race engineering car of James Winslow. If you've just joined us, this is the opening race for the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017. Fantastic season last year, 2nd season of operations, and of course the winners of these classes will be eligible to fight again in the Asian Le Mans Series, which is going to be over the winter time coming up. And both these series, of course, have put a real foothold into Asia for Le Mans. And here is a replay of the start. As you see, they roll over the start, and it was very, very close, flat out. But look at the way that Kantasak came out and pulled out wide, looked for that angle, but the fight really was on the inside between David Rizzo and Jamie Winslow. Jamie Winslow now, well, he's still about 2 seconds behind as we get into lap 3. Once again, wonderful effort from Kantasak Kusuri. Don't forget that that car weighs a fair amount more than these LMP3s. He's still in there. Cars now getting spread out around the track. Just one non-starter from the Ligier JS53 from the Eurasia Motorsport team. Dominic Ang didn't make it. And that's the TKS team. And Shinyo Sanyo. I was reading a couple of articles on this year's Sprint Cup and looking at how important and how significant it was, of course, to have the Japanese team joining the championship this year. Japanese Motorsport has been watching this tournament last year. Now it looks like it's got a little bit grayer out there. I was just saying for a second that you can never tell with Sepang's weather, but there you go, there's some bright sun and the heat haze as well. As we look at Graham Dowsett and the Team NZ car, and hot on his tail, Wong Kian Kwan. It's a good GT3 battle happening there. And that is for 6th and 7th. Both of them running around about a minute behind. Perfect racing line there from Wong Kian. Another great thing about Sepang, as all the drivers from all the classes and riders have said, I've talked to Valentino Rossi, I've talked to F1 drivers, and they say what a wonderful track it is to race on because it is so wide. And here is our race leader, Win Motorsport, making so far a very successful start to the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017. As I said, newly established team. David Rizzo sharing that car with William Locke. William Locke is the owner of the team out of Hong Kong, and not only did they put in a blistering time during qualifying of 2:01.433, but they also have big plans as to what they would like to do, not just this season, but also for the Asian Le Mans Series and the 24-hour as well. No stranger to success, I can tell you that. William Locke, former VW Sirocco R-Cup China champion, and he's at Ligier. Nissan's doing very well indeed. Of course, Ligier won last year as well. Clear track ahead of him, 4 laps completed, and now a 7-second gap, because he's, as I said, clearing up in these sectors. And there is Max Ebenal, had a great start, currently in 5th. Shinyo Sano, the 99 TKS LMP3. Trying to close in on James Winslow. And that's how close he is. Now, one of the things that Shinyo was saying in the run-up to this first race was one of the main factors to deal with, not only in Tokyo and, of course, in Kuala Lumpur, is the heat. It is very hot, I can tell you now, inside that car and inside the leathers as well, on a day when the track temperature is around about 50 degrees centigrade. So he did say endurance was going to be part of the factor you have to deal with, but so far doing very well in 3rd. In that Ginetta LMP3. It's looking like he's about 4 seconds behind Jamie Winslow now. And there is Jamie Winslow. Now, if you want to find out anything about, of course, the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup, then you can these days. Things have changed. The digital age is upon us, and as you watch this on a live feed going to wherever computer, you can also open up another tab and get onto www.asianlemonssprintcup.com, and that'll have all the news, views, results, and of course driver profiles as well while you watch this first race get underway. Well, not really get underway, I mean midway by now. 6 laps in. Jamie Winslow pushing that car, knowing that Shinyo is just on his tail. And as expected, the LMP3s, the more prototype cars, have pushed away from the rest of the pack. But still a good showing from Katasaku Siri. Well, that was a bit of a smoke there. Going into sector 2. Possibly picked a different line. Looked more like tire smoke than anything else, thankfully. But look at Katasaku Siri. Oh, I wonder, a bit closer there than he did before. Look at the grip of that LMP3 as it went through the chicane. Unbelievable. Now we're getting into the end of sector 1, into sector 2 now. That's going to end at that big Vijaya Tioman corner. That just rolls away. That's corner 10. As we get to 12, 13 and 14 and bring ourselves back to the front again. So, 6 laps gone. David Rizzo still looking completely in charge with no real problems at all. in that Win Motorsports Ligier JSP3. James Winslow's in second with the Infinity Race Engineering car. And I can tell you now that David has put in a 2:03.455. This was qualifying speed. Shinyo Sano in the TKS is in third. Kantasak Kusuri and Max Ebenall in fourth and fifth. Graham Dowsett in sixth. Wong Kian Kwan in seventh. And Terry Fang in eighth, with Chi Huang in ninth. Those are the standings as we get up to 7 laps completed in the race so far. That is Kantasak Kusuri, who's held onto that fourth place pretty consistently now. We follow him. I can tell you his sector times, 55.1. That was pretty fast out of sector 1, 37.7 and 34 flat for sectors 2 and 3 on his last lap. Currently the fastest car on the track. No surprise. Up at the front, David Rizzo, as we look at Max Ebenall in the Arrows racing car. Purple and green Lamborghini Gallardo. Getting into that fast section. Just a bit wide on that turn, but cuts in nicely for the next one. And coming up to the end. Now, there has been some action up at the front. And I've just got some information that there is a yellow flag at turn 12 because a car might be in the gravel. We'll just look for confirmation of that as soon as we get it. Yes, car 92 is in the gravel, and that is Chi Huang. Chi Huang from TAAI confirmed in the gravel, so yellow flag there. And also the pit window will be opening soon. Very soon. Each of these cars does have one available pit stop between the 25th and 40th minute, and there is confirmation of that 92 car, Team AAI's Chi Huang. Looks like a blown engine to me, and thankfully he's getting out of that. He's going to walk away from that, so hard luck for Chi Huang today. But remember, this is race 1, and race 2 will be tomorrow as well. Each of these race weekends are not just single races, so plenty of opportunity for Team AAI to get onto that car and get everything ready for race 2. Now the pit window should open in about 7 minutes from now. It'll be interesting to see the strategy because David Rizzo should have enough time to get in and get out, but we'll have to wait and see. We've had another car that was very wide, and that looked a bit like James Winslow. It's going a bit too fast across the screen. I think it was. No, it was Shinyo. Shinyo with Kantasak really pushing him on his tail. Now, Shinyo has had a couple of rocky turns, and that's allowed Kantasak to catch up in that Audi R8 LMS. Kantasak, of course, currently leading that GT class, and Graham Dowsett, the GT Cup. As I said, each of the winners of those classes will get entry to the Winter Le Mans Series coming up later in the year. As we focus on that battle, here is the back straight. It's Kantasak Kusuri in the Plan B Motorsport car, the 59 Audi R8, chasing Shinyo Sano in the TKS. And there is our race leader, David Rizzo, who has not put a foot wrong, literally, so far in this race. Wonderful start. He managed to hold off Jamie Winslow. We saw that. Cut in nicely into corner 1. and since then has been really blistering, burning his way through the sectors, and has now put up a 16-second gap ahead of James Winslow, and that should be enough. Should he need a pit stop, that pit window opening now in about 4 minutes. If you've just joined us, this is the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017, race 1. In race 2, I'll just give you a little bit later on the timings for that as we at the end of the race, so you can catch that right here on the direct live feed from Sepang circuit. If you want to find out more about Sepang, of course, you can also log on to another website, www.sepangcircuit.com, and find out. There were a lot of events racing out today, the Formula Masters, of course, the Formula Renault, but all eyes were focused on this, the beginning of the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017 season. 3 events. The third event will be in August 18th and to 20th, the second 21st to 23rd, and this the first one. As we look at James Winslow just at the bottom of your screen, and with lights flashing, it looks like Shinyo Sano is just going past. Back marker there. You just see Kantasak Kusuri from Thailand behind him. I wonder if that back marker is going to pose any problems for him. Tries to take him the inside, gets cut off. So a chance now for Jamie Winslow to possibly get some daylight from one of these GT cars that was really hassling him. And now Kantasak is through safely. But it looks like Shinyo now 26 seconds off David Rizzo, and Winslow 19 seconds off him as well. So it's going to have to be something pretty spectacular that happens to change the top 3 at the moment, all nicely spread out. But just behind them, there's a huge fight between Shinyo Sano and Kantasak Kusuri. They both posted almost exactly the same lap time for their last lap, 206.464 and 206.604, and it was just Shinyo a little bit faster through sector 1 that has kept him in front. But he has definitely been worried about that Singer Plan B Audi R8 that has been on his tail. As we cut back to James Winslow, defending champion. Now just having a look at this replay of Shinyo getting himself past that back marker very, very well. Maybe it was the expert cornering ability. I mean, these LMP3 cars are designed, as I said, with so much downforce that is, I've never driven one, but I can tell you now, I can imagine that you've got quite a few options in that car as to what's happening. Pick any racing line you want. I have, in fact, just as a quick digress, been around the Sepang circuit in a Michelin F4, which was very, very interesting indeed for a normal driver. I can tell you, it gives you a whole new perspective on what racing drivers really face. But these guys, of course, have to do it lap after lap and really get that endurance factor in and be on their fighting edge as much as possible. That's Terry Fang, who's started at the back of the grid, and of course with Chi Huang retiring, going into the gravel with a blown engine on turn 12. Terry Fang is now in 8th. In 7th, Wong Kang Kwan. In 6th, Graham Dowsett leading the GT Cup class. Then this huge fight Max Ebenol and Kantasak Kusuri. The Arrows Racing and Singer Plan B Motorsport in 5th and 4th. And they're about half a minute now behind the LMP3 cars of Shinyo Sanyo in 3rd, James Winslow in 2nd, and David Rizzo up front in the Win Motorsport LMP3. That there is Graham Dowsett. And he was interesting news about Graham Dowsett as well, of course, returning to the Sprint Cup, that 997 GT3 Cup with John Curran, teamed up with John Curran. A lot of these races, Graham being one of them, is just really excited about the format of the Sprint Cup, with these 2 one-hour races happening at 3 events on the same track. Because don't forget, being on the same track is so important. A lot of championships go to different tracks. You have to rethink the whole car, and you have to rewire the whole car for that specific track. Well, this is more tweaking for Sepang, and get faster and faster throughout the year. Of course, it means it's going to be very interesting. Now, Terry Fang and Graham Dowsett about to be lapped by James Winslow. I wonder if the back markers are going to make all the difference in the end. Well, no problems for him there. And the pit window is open. And first in, that is Terry Fang from Team AAI. Obviously, not just experience for new Asian drivers and some of the other drivers, but also experience for pit crews as well. These LMP3 cars need slightly less amount of pit crew members, I heard. It's actually run a team of about 8 LMP2 cars. Needed up to about 10 or 12. Now, that was interesting. I think that was the first mistake, if you could call it, a mistake that David Rizzo made, going a bit wide in turn 14. As we look at Terry Fang get back in, there is James Winslow. He's now past Graham Dowsett, and as you can see, just behind him, Shinyo Sano there in the TKS, still getting hounded by Kantasak Kusiri. Now, I wonder if those back markers are posing a problem for him. Well, he's come into the pits. That is Shinyo Sano for the ALMSC. You're allowed, I should say, 1 pit stop in a specific window, the 25th to 40-minute window. So any changes that need to be done. And of course, there's nothing more. There's a lot of electronics, there's a lot of computing, there's a lot of technology, but there's nothing like talking to your driver for a few seconds, giving him a bit of reassurance before he starts bombing around the track once again. And you'll see all the cars coming, of course, for their pits. That was Terry Fang coming out. Max Ebenol is just pitted as well. But David Rizzo shouldn't. There is Max Ebenol. Thing looking okay, and there you can just about see, well, Max is switching out. Now, some of these teams, of course, a lot of these teams have double drivers, 2 drivers, and that is part of the concept of the Sprint Cup. You can have a very experienced driver, you can have a rookie driver as well, and they get to learn a little bit more about how to race these cars before you get to something as epic as the Le Mans 24 Hours itself. But as I said earlier, the ACO, the Automobile Club de l'Ouest, who are in charge of all of it, overseeing all of these championship series, they have made sure that wherever you are in the world, that you can either watch or get involved with the Asian, the Le Mans series. Not necessarily the Asian one, the European one, on the rest of them. David Rizzo here, out again, looking like he's going to be leaving his pit late, but he has the ability to. 14 laps completed now. Very fast through sector 1, 53.711, so enjoying himself. And this is Graham Dowsett, in fact. That's Graham Dowsett in that 997 GT3. Very interesting class. The GT3 have been around since about 2006. Very much take part. They take part in a lot of championships. Of course, the Le Mans Series, but the Australian GT, the ADAC GT Masters, the FIA GT. I could go on. The list is too long, and need to get back to race time. But once again, I said, if you want to find out anything more about any of these cars or any of these classes, get onto that website, www.asianlemanseries.com, and there's all the information there. Because I like to get my peepers back on David Rizzo, Win Motorsport team. There he is, blue and orange. Clear track ahead of him, clear track behind him. Looking very, very good indeed. He's just completed a sector 2 time of 36.6. 32 seconds ahead of James Winslow, and here he is pitting, our race leader. A lot is going to come from this pit stop. Remember, of course, any car in any class entering a pit lane has to stick to the pit speed. If I'm right, don't quote me on this, I think it's about 70 kilometers an hour, which of course adds to the overall pit time as well. But those Win Motorsport engineers don't look too perturbed by what's going on. Just giving the car a good check, checking the pressure in the tires. Looking on okay. And once all these pit stops are over, then we'll get you the new standings of this first race 1, round 1 of the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup, live from Sepang International Circuit. There was our race leader. There is our second place man, who's also in the pit now. So top 2 in the pit. What can Kantasak Kasuri do? Well, what he's doing right now is he's fighting hard. That looked like Max Ebenol, who was behind him, who was trying to look for a line. And David Rizzo looks all good. Just ahead of him, James Winslow. The engine starts. And he's ready to go with a roar. So that's David Rizzo's pit stop. Done and dusted. No significant problems to report. He's been putting in some blistering times. Now let's have a look at James Winslow. Well, they're having a little look at that back right tire. There's one engineer, now there's 2 engineers. Meanwhile, Rizzo is back. And it's William Locke that's got in the car, so David Rizzo's almost perfect first half of the race is done, and team owner William Locke is now in that Win Motorsport car with 15 laps completed. Now we're just going to get you an update on that ADES 03. The ADES 03 is the only ADES car that is being raced by the Infinity Race engineering team, and James Winslow, who pulled into the pits just now, everything was looking fine, but there seemed to be a tiny bit of interest in his right back tire. Well, it doesn't look like he's in the pits anymore, so it looks like he's out, which is good. So Kantasak Kusuri is now pitting. And as you can imagine, with one pit window, the standings can change drastically. Of course, it calls for different strategies as well. But when you have put in such a large lead as Win Motorsport have since the beginning of the race, it shouldn't really be that much of a problem, or I should say you have a lot more options for your pit strategies if you do just go out and set up a 20 or a 30-second lead. A lot of cars coming in for pit now. That's Wong Kyang Kwan in the number 15, that Porsche, and just behind him the Singer Plan B Motorsport Kantasak Kusuri that's been raised. Interesting to see there's David Rizzo. Sorry, I keep saying David Rizzo, it's not, it's William Locke. Now, they have changed since the pit stop, so David is somewhere in there, feet up, very happy with the job that he's done today. It was a fantastic start to the race for him. Kantasak still not out of the pits yet. There's James Rizzo. Here is Kantasak waiting, engines running. But by the looks of it, Wong Kyang Kwan is going to be out of those pits before him. And they're both out. So 2 more of the 9 have had their check. They've had their service, their little mini service. As you can see, there's that pit lane speed before you can open up the throttle in that beautiful R8. So on the outlap, and I can tell you now that Kantasak has been replaced by Burit Birombkadi as second driver as well. Let's see what he can do. And in the same way, James Winslow has also been replaced by Neil Muston, good friend of his, who is very much looking forward to starting this championship and going through it with him. We'll just let them settle into their outlaps and then get you the standings. Still Shinyo in the TKS. Michael Choi is now in the Arrows Racing, taking over from Max Ebenol. Euricio de Jesus has taken over from Wong Kyang Kwan. John Curran has taken over from Graham Dowsett. And Jun San Chen has taken over from Terry Fang. No, yes, Terry Fang. So, new drivers out for the second half of this race. 17 laps done by the leader. Still the weather holding up nicely at Sepang. Good to see. In truth, it really is about 4 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock, where things could get a bit literally shady. But as I said, last weekend there was a sudden squall that had to stop the Superbike Championship, or one of the races of it, and get race control out there. So it's not just the drivers, and it's not just the team officials or the pit mechanics. And there's a full spin from James Winslow. Absolutely lost it. Just coming in, that looked like turn 2, turn 3. Absolutely lost control. Hopefully we'll get a replay of that. Recovered well, but that just goes to show you exactly the fine line when it comes to picking driving lines and racing lines, even with the grip of that car. And And that, of course, that slip had nothing to do with weather conditions either, as I was saying. It's just something, but James Winslow looks like he's back on track, and it doesn't look like there's anything too wrong with that Le Mans Prototype 3 car. Neil Muston now driving it. So maybe Neil is just getting to grips with it. So our leaderboard now that everyone has settled in past the pit entrances. William Locke in the Win Motorsport car up front. Neil Muston in second in Infinity Racing. Burit Biramkani in the Singer Plan B Motorsport. Shinyo Sano in the TKS LMP3 in fourth now. Michael Choi in the Arrows Racing in fifth. Mauricio de Jesus past Macau Racing in sixth. John Curran in seventh. Jun San Chen in eighth. And Chi Wang in ninth. Non-starter was the Malaysia Motorsport car of Dominic Ang. Good teamwork from Win Motorsport today. A little bit of a slip by Neil Muston. Just at the opening of his, but he seems to, of his time in the car, but he seems to have rescued it well enough. And William Locke now on 18 laps, and Neil Muston some 55 seconds behind him, so a lot of work to do. And it's just those front four, William Locke, Neil Muston, Burit and Shinyo, who are on lap 18, and all the other cars are currently on lap 17. Definitely back in control. If you are just joining us on this live feed, the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017 Championship opening race from the opening race weekend. Race 2 will be tomorrow, and as I said, I will give you the exact time of that right now. In fact, that was the afternoon race that we kicked off the series with. As we have a look at Shinyo Sano, who is one of the only drivers to have not made a change. He's been here for the whole race so far. I can tell you now that tomorrow's race will be at 1:45 Malaysian time, so make sure that you're hooked into this live stream then for race 2. And this is John Curran and Mauricio de Jesus in 6th and 7th. John just trying on the outside. Both drivers fresh from their pit stops. In the middle of all of that, that looks like Burit Birumbakadi in the Plan B Motorsport. And sorry, my mistake, that is in fact Jun San Chan in the Team AAI. So this is the fight for 6th, 7th and 8th going on at the moment, with John Curran leading, but a good move. And it looks like Jun San Chan has just taken 6th spot very nicely. Bit of late braking. cut down the inside, and look at the amount of daylight. And Jun has already pulled ahead in that McLaren 6505 GT3. These all GT Cup passes now. It looks like he's speeding ahead of John Curran. Mauricio de Jesus now fading back behind them as well. There's around about 2 seconds just separating these three cars at the moment. Lots of battles going on, and you can see the indicators to the back marker that William Lock would like to get through as quickly as possible, and he does almost. Looked like he was about to. That used to be Max Ebenhol's Arrows racing for the first half of the race. That is now Michael Choi that is ahead of William Lock, who's coming up to finish his 20th lap as they get into turn 14, and that is going to give him the space he needs. And he does indeed get through with no problems at all into turn 15. And that is Michael Choi just heading into the pits. So, Win Motorsport living up to their name at the moment. As I said, newly established, looking forward to this series, and they've done very, very well so far in race 1, and they look like they may have just led it from start to finish as well. They had a very, very good start through David Risso. V8 engine holding up very well, pumping out those 420 horsepower, but reliable so far. To 21 laps now for William Lock. Neil Muston just crosses the line, 53 seconds behind. And that looks like Burit Romkadi. It is indeed. Now this will mean 25 points, well earned for Win Motorsport as well, going into tomorrow's race. Once again, tomorrow's race 1:45, so be ready, lock onto your live stream. Wherever you would like to watch your race, you can, thanks to the wonders of the digital age. Now that is Mauricio de Jesus. He passed Macau Racing 997 GT3 Cup. Behind him, he has William Lock. William Lock now on 22 laps, with roughly 11 minutes to go. Our star so far has definitely been orange and blue. Into the uphill section, and I'm expecting Mauricio de Jesus to let him through. There he goes. Now as for sector times, slowed down a tiny bit 57.4 now through sector 1 for William. Neil Mustin's on 55.9, and Shinyo Sano in the TKS at 56.4. And that looks again like Jun San Chan, yes, in the McLaren. Rounding turn 15 on the front straight. June now, as you can see, clear in 6th. There's Neil Mustin. Had a little slip. It's possibly the more exciting parts of this. You can see he almost went a little bit wide on that chicane as well, but recovered the slip well. That's important. Didn't seem to do too much damage to the car either. LMP3 cars are very flat to the ground, so in 2nd spot in the Ades 03 at the moment. 9 minutes left to go. 23 laps completed. And 2 entrants that didn't qualify. There was Chi Huang, who went out on turn 12 on lap 5. Looked like an engine blow. That was for Team AAI. And Dominic Ang in the Eurasia Motorsport, a non-starter off the grid, sadly. As we look at the only driver to have not changed, Shinyo Sano, TKS, Ginetta LMP3. 22 laps for him. Once again, the significance of this championship is really quite huge as we look at some of these LMP3 cars have been set up as a nice, safe, reliable car to get you into the ladder that is being built by ACO and, of course, Le Mans, the iconic word in motorsport in the Asian region. So the winners of all 3 classes within the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup will get to take part in the Asian Le Mans Series, and with a chance after that to possibly actually fight and win and take part in the 2018 Le Mans 24 Hours, which is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. As we look at the Singer Plan B Motorsport GT car, which has been doing very well today. Looks like it came in for a driver change, as what started with Kantasak Kusiri is now Burit Birom Bakadi, both from Thailand. Good reliability shown from that car. Has been in a constant 4th, putting in decent sector times, lapping around about 2:09.067. And heading the GT class as our race leader, just tearing through the back markers. And it does feel a little bit rough to call them back markers when it is a 9-car grid, so it's a testament to the speed of Win Motorsport and William Lock that they've actually caught up. And they've been taking these cars. That looks like it's a pretty open opportunity to get past John Curran in that Team New Zealand car, and he does with ease. 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes left to go now. Be interesting to see what happens in race 2 tomorrow. just looking at some of the qualifying times that were put in over the last couple of days and free practice, and there were some good showings from all the teams. TKS especially with their Ginetta, so interesting if Shinyo Sano can do a little bit better tomorrow. But also on those qualifying and free practices, James Winslow and David Rizzo and William Locke were up front. They have been up front here as well. There is that Ginetta of Shinyo Sano. Easily past Michael Choi in the Arrows Racing, who's actually in 5th at the moment. And it does look like Shinyo 19 seconds, and he's not going to be able to catch up Neil Mustin. So our top 3 look fixed, but you never know. So that's William Locke through, Neil Mustin's through. That's Shinyo taking turn 15, so he's going to be coming through. Right here in 3rd. Now 1 minute off William Locke, Shinyo Sano. And just to give you an idea, the 4th placed car, the GT of Singer Plan B Motorsport of Burrit, just crossed the line. So you can see the difference between the LMP3s and the GTs in terms of speed going around this circuit. Here is Neil Mustin. Into the 3-minute barrier. So William Locke with just 3 minutes to go before locking in his first points of the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017 Championship, and that's going to make that team very, very happy indeed. And we're all looking forward to race 2, of course. There is that Win Motorsport car. So, as we hit the 2-minute mark, once again, for all the people that just joined us, you are watching the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup in this race. That is our race leader in orange and blue, William Locke, and his teammate David Rizzo have run a pretty flawless race ahead of Neil Mustin and Jamie Winslow, Infinity Race Engineering, and Shinyo Sano, TKS, in 3rd. That car there, Burrit Birom Cardi's Singer Plan B Motorsport, is in 4th and heads up the GT class. Out of Michael Choi in Arrows Racing, Jun San Chen in 6th, and John Curran and Euricio de Jesus, the GT Cup class team, New Zealand and Pass Macau Racing. But a good performance from this Audi R8, as it has been solidly in 4th throughout the entire race. Hitting the 1-minute mark, something that I'm sure the Win Motorsport team are aware of. "26 laps completed." And as they fly past home straight, you can make that 27 laps. For William and Win Motorsport, Neil Mustin coming in. He's just hitting the back straight now, turn 14. And then the final turn, turn 15, before he himself will hit 27 laps. And that is time up. Regulation, of course, leaders laps as well. So into the final stages of this race, and it has been exciting and everything that everyone has been waiting for these past few months. And it really has been something that everyone's been looking forward to for months, because it's another stage on this incredible motorsports ladder that ACO and Le Mans have built up around the world. And you're witnessing it live, the first round from the Sepang International Circuit. And that's our race leader, William Locke, from the Win Motorsport team. He has a lot to thank, I suppose, for his teammate, David Rizzo. Just joined the team this year, of course, but he had pretty much a flawless start from start to when he handed over the reins to William. And here he comes down back straight into turn 15. This will be the final corner for William Locke. Win Motorsport has lived up to their name. And there is the checkered flag. Well done to the Win Motorsport team in that Ligier JSP3. No problems at all by the looks of it. Had the quietest, tamest of pit stops, really. Now we're going to watch as we see who's going to come in through second. That's Shinyo Sano, looking good for third. It should be Neil Mustin crossing the line. Neil Mustin should be, there he is. Neil Mustin in the 27 car, he shares with James Winslow. He takes second, and a good 20 points to start off his championship run. And Shinyo Sano takes third in the LMP3 class. So that's really good performances from those Le Mans prototype cars. And now we should be seeing, there we go, Burit Bromkadi entering turn 15 in the Singer Plan B Motorsport. Should be his checkered flag for fourth. Again, one last shout out to a very reliable and consistent car that has been running in fourth all the way. Michael Choi has finished in fifth. And as you can see from that, you've got Jun Sun Chen that should be coming in sixth. John Curran in seventh, and Euricio de Jesus in eighth. Two non-finishers, of course. Chi Huang out on the fifth lap onto the gravel with a blown engine, and Dominic Ang didn't manage to start. So congratulations once again to Win Motorsport and William Locke. And the drivers can sit back now and wait for the podium. Of course, the car's going to have to come in for their regulatory checks.
I know. That's why I have a wide races. Yes.
And that, just saw a look at how happy the Win Motorsport team were. Was their second driver. So the car's now just warming down on their lap. And that would be David Rizzo. Very happy that his baton change, and you can already see that the door of that car is open. Whether that's a winning celebration or whether it's just to get some air into the car, we will never know. But the fact is, that is the car that has won the first race in round one of the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017. And those 4 cars, in fact all the cars, are going to be marshalling their ways into the pits and into the technical specification rooms. You can hear the applause from the rest of the team. And there's the Michelin man. All these cars, of course, running on Michelin tires. And I'm sure we're going to get a big victory punch. There we go. It's what you have to do. That's what it's all about. Hashtag win. That's a very nice thing to have on the side of your sleeve when you've won. And there is the teamwork we were talking about. Both drivers have done so well, not only in pit stops, in terms of marshalling the race, and no significant troubles for them whatsoever. So as all the drivers have now come around those first 3 winning cars, and it has been a successful start. As I said, just two cars that didn't make it, one on track and one non-starter, that Ligier JS53 Evo from Eurasia Motorsport, a non-starter unfortunately for Dominic Chi Huang. Well, we got news from a yellow flag on lap 5 that his engine had blown. There is team owner of Win Motorsport, William Locke. And there's David Rizzo, teammate. Now, once again, if you do want to find out more information about this wonderful series, then you can get onto Asian Le Mans Sprintcup.com, sprintcup.com. That is the official URL. All the news, views, results, interviews, of course, driver profiles and car profiles as well. Once again, that's Asian Le Mans Sprintcup.com. These riders right now just looking for the podium. Well, there's a big sign there that says podium, so I'm happy with that. Now, the next round will be in July, but that we're not going to focus on just yet, because there's the next race, and that's going to be tomorrow at 1:45. So mark that down in your calendars. The live stream for the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup race 2 from round 1 will be at 1:45 on Sunday, and I'll be here for that as well. Once again, our finishers, David Rizzo and William Locke in the Win Motorsport team. That's that orange and blue car right at the front. James Winslow and Neil Muston in the car right at the bottom of your screen, the Infinity Race Engineering 27, and Shinyo Sano ran the whole race himself in the TKS LMP3 in the 3rd car, and that is the LMP3 class. Burit Birom Bacardi and his teammate Kantasak Kusuri have topped the GT class. And I think we're just going to have a look back at this wonderful race. There was, at that point, that was David Rizzo at the beginning of the start of the race. And this was the rolling start. As you can see, just kept his line very well, but there was that plan B car pushing out wide, and you look for a second that that he was going to get the lead, but then of course James Winslow had the lead for the first few laps, and this is where he really could have pulled away, but it was a liquid move by David Rizzo that got him that lead, and then he did what's most important for any team member, which is of course keep that lead and pass it on to William Lock halfway through the race, and William just consolidated that, and in the end they were a good 45 seconds. That was Chi Huang, as we said, on lap 5, that hit the gravel with a blown engine, one of the people not to finish. That was one of the consistent finishers there, just ahead of the Infinity Race Engineering team that came in second. And there's a shot of Shinyo Sano in the TKS LMP3, just rounding out Jun Chan San in the McLaren. Good solid race from the TKS team in the end. As I said, they were very good in qualifying as well. The pit stops, all in all, were without that much incident, thankfully, though there was a little bit of concern over one of the back tires in the end for some of the cars. This was the, again, all I can say, flawless pit stop from Win Motorsport, and that was immediately followed by the pit stop by the Infinity Race guys, and there was that big slide by Neil Mustin. Just got in the car, just took it over from Jamie, and just had a little bit of trouble going into that initial chicane. But in the end, it all settled down nicely, and some good reliability shown by Win Motorsport. And it wasn't just reliability, of course. It was the hunger to win this first race one for that team as well. They're called Win Motorsport for a reason, and we're going to see if they can do it again tomorrow. There's David Rizzo. Congratulations once again to both of them. What a fantastic result for Win Motorsport. And here we are back live, waiting for the podium presentation. And I'm sure that these drivers are just thankful to be out of their car cockpits. Must be blistering. And
race leading the championship. He needed one solitary point and a big crash at Mandarin Bend in qualifying.
Once again, the other two rounds, 21st and 23rd of July, 18th and 20th of August. The Asian Le Mans Series itself will be happening over the winter, and Le Mans is set for June, if I'm right. And if you wanted to find out anything more about it, I'm gonna make sure I get this address right as well. AsianLeMansSprintCup.com is the URL. Remember, Le Mans spelt the French way with the extra S as well. So any news, views, results, and interviews you need from that, check that website out, and be here tomorrow as well for the for race 2, which is at 1:45. And they're just about to get on the podium, I've been told. Here they come. And our winners get onto the podium, and it's going to be great feeling for those drivers in light blue and orange. And there is Shinyo Sano in third, and that's James Winslow and Neil in second. And it's a good example there of the experienced driver with the younger driver as well. And in the middle, David Rizzo and William Lock with their first win. There you go, the Win Motorsport team about to get what they've been waiting for, what they've been training for. Number one in race 1, round 1, the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017. What a performance by the Win Motorsport team. but also a big shout out to Infinity Race Engineering. They've set their agenda out for the season in their Adesso 3. That is, of course, a joint Malaysian-Australian initiative as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how James Winslow, defending champion, and Neil Muston can perform over the course of the 3 rounds, the 6 races. And I think that's probably the most iconic shot of any motorsport race ending that anybody can remember. The sprinkles, as a lot of people call them. So this from the LMP3 class. Those LMP3 cars there. These cars, as I said, the latest LMP2 was the category, but these cars are a good stepping stone up to LMP2. And the only real difference is they're just a bit shorter from what I understand of LMP2 cars. And as I understand it, they are now setting up the GT class podium. I was giving you out URLs earlier about race information, but of course track information as well. SepangCircuit.com will give you an idea of when all the races are happening. A lot of events happening over these weekends, so if you do want to catch the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup qualifying or free practice or anything, then you're going to have to also check, or you might want to check that website as well to get as much info as you can. It's just so great to have so much info these days in the digital age to access as we go through. And you can already see on the GT podium those are our GT class winners. No surprise, the Singer Plan B Motorsports team up front there, Kantasak, Kusiri, and Burit Bakari. They're going to be very happy with that win after a very consistent performance, as we said. As the GT podium, as I said, Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup and the Asian Le Mans Series are stepping stones and ladders to different things and bigger things, and they have a lot of classes in between them as well. It's been a fantastic race here today, race 1. The weather held up. The fans certainly got a treat in this prototype racing class, and everybody has been talking about. I'm sure we're going to see the sprinkles here as well. Kind of. And so the drivers cooling themselves down however they can. So be here tomorrow at 1:45 for the second race of the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup 2017. And this one last podium for the GT Cup. There were just 2 cars that competed, and they are now getting their medals as well. They're getting their trophies, I suppose. Now, if you did catch us before, remember tomorrow the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup Race 2 is going to be on at 1:45 Malaysian time. So wherever you are watching in the world, adjust your watches and get it down into your diaries. I myself, Jeevan Salvanathan, will be here in the commentary box again for it, to go through all 3 of these classes and to find out if William Locke, especially, and David Rizzo in Win Motorsport can do their thing again in the LMP3 class, where the Burrit and Kantasak can do their thing again in the Singer Plan B Motorsport. And their thing, of course, is being winning. And also for these GT Cup drivers as well. It's all great experience, it's all great fun, and it's part of a massive, massive event that has now officially kicked off at the Sepang International Circuit. It's a good place and photo. So once again, join us tomorrow at 1:45 Malaysian time if you are going to join us for the Asian Le Mans Sprint Cup Race 2 of Round 1. You can catch us at that URL. For now, it's goodbye from me.